And so that tells part of the story. It focuses on the manger and the stable. We don't know if it was exactly a stable. Some think it was a cave, some think it was the lower room of a house, the inn, where the animals were kept. But we have that picture. And over the years, the church and Christians have shared this story in lots of different ways, through carols, through nativity scenes. Dear St. Francis was the originator of the nativity scene, and so the picture grew and grew and was shared by millions and millions. Where would you start the story? Where would you begin if you were asked, tell the Christmas story? Any thoughts? The angel coming to Mary. Excellent. Good idea. Yeah? Going back to the prophet Isaiah, the Old Testament prophet, predicting and looking forward to this Emmanuel, this child that was to be God with us. We could go back even further. Adam, yes. If you look at Luke's Gospel, he starts by giving the genealogy. He gives the genealogy of Jesus right back to Adam. Matthew goes back to Abraham, the great father of the nation. Abraham is respected by Jews and Christians and Muslims together as the father of faith. But Luke goes right back to Adam. We could start the story even before then. We'll hear in a moment John's Gospel speaking about in the beginning was the Word. Right back, before creation itself, this pre-existent Christ, this Word of God that then in Jesus becomes flesh and blood among us. And if you go right back to there, where would you end the story? Perhaps with the shepherds coming down? You could take it right to the cross and the death of Jesus. And then the new birth, the new life of Jesus in the resurrection. Or his birth in the lives of his followers. In fact, you could continue his story to your lives, your times. And we could continue it to the end of time, where all is brought into completion. It's an amazing story. A story of one time, one place, one particular baby, this screaming reality. Well, hopefully he wasn't screaming too much, but this crying reality. No crying he makes. I think Jesus probably had a little cry every so often as a baby. A real flesh and blood baby. The most human of realities. And yet this great story in which that birth takes place. The story of God at work in our world. Let's continue that lovely carol, Once in Royal David's City, and we sing the next two verses. Would you like? And so Julia's going to read about the meaning behind the story. Each of the Gospels tell this story in their own special way. And John doesn't talk about the manger, but he does talk about the Word made flesh. Let's listen now.
John 1, verses 1 to 5, then 9 to 14. The Word became flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. The true light that gives light to every man was coming into the world. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who received him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision, or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. This is the word of the Lord.
They are amazing, powerful words. They tell the Christmas story in a totally different way. If you look at the four Gospels, Mark, well, he doesn't tell the Christmas story at all, just begins by saying, the Son of God. This is the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and then goes straight into when Jesus was a grown man and baptized by John. If you look at Luke, he puts the picture within the story of humanity and places it in the Roman Empire when Quirinius was governor, and focuses on the humility of Jesus laid in the manger and the shepherds coming and the angel's message, peace on earth. And Matthew, with his Jewish background, he focuses on the prophecy of Isaiah, Emmanuel, God with us. And then widens it by talking about the Magi, the Gentiles coming to worship and offer their gifts to Jesus. And John, he begins with this meditation on the Word that is God's communication. We use words to connect one with another. If we had no language, we would hardly be the human race that we are. God's word becomes flesh and blood, human being, a baby in a manger, in order that we should be able to become born again by God's Spirit, to become children of God, to join with Jesus in that relationship with a loving God. Through one human being, born at a particular time in a particular place long ago, God has entered humanity as a whole and enabled humanity to come to him. We're going to hear a little poem, a little reflection that God doesn't send others to do his work. Linda's to read this.
God did not send into our tormented world technical aid, Gabriel with a group of experts. He didn't send food, nor discarded clothes of angels. Even less did he extend long-term loans. Rather, he came himself, born in a stable, starved in the desert, naked on a cross, and sharing with us, he became our bread, and suffering for us, he became our joy.